If you want to add more advanced features to your HISE projects but you're not yet comfortable writing scripts, then community-made scripts are a great stepping stone. In this video I'll show you where you can find them and how to bring them into your projects. So you can find scripts on the HISE forum. They're generally released under a public domain license, so you can just take bits and pieces that you need and incorporate them into your own projects and not worry too much about the license. If there is a strict license there, it's usually very clear in the forum post, but it's rare that you'll see that. However, finding specific scripts on the forum can be tricky because scripts tend to be posted when somebody's having an issue with their code, so you tend to get bits and pieces of scripts posted, but nothing that's a whole usable script, although you do find them occasionally. I have some scripts I've posted publicly on my Codeberg repo, so this is just like GitHub. So there's a whole selection of scripts here, and we're going to look at some of these later in this video. Most of these are published under the GNU GPL, but if you just click and open one, so I'll click on this one for example, in pretty much all of them I've put a license header at the top to tell you what the license is. So you can see this one is public domain, so that means you could just use this script in any project. There's no license restrictions. Whereas if I go down to something like my Legato script, this one is under the GNU GPL, so you would have to follow the terms of that license to use that script. So whenever you find a script written by somebody else, just be sure of the licensing terms so you know how you can use that script. I'll leave a link to this repo alongside this video so you can go and check out these scripts. So if we take a look in HISE, when we talk about scripts, we're mostly talking about MIDI processor scripts. So they are added by clicking the plus button and selecting Script Processor. These are the usual kinds of scripts. There are other types of scripts, but this is usually what we're talking about. Let me just zoom the UI in here to make it a little larger. There we go. So within HISE, scripts are split into sections for different types of events, and it's mostly MIDI events. So if I open up the script that we've just added, this Script Processor 1, you'll see we have these different sections. We have onInit, onNoteOn, onNoteOff, onController, onTimer, and onControl. So these are called callbacks, and all that means is these bits of code are triggered when certain events happen. So the onNoteOn code, so anything in here, that will be triggered when a MIDI on message is received. The onNoteOff code is triggered when a MIDI note off message is received. The onInit code, this is triggered during initialization, that's what init stands for, or when the script is compiled by clicking the compile button. If we go into the larger script editor, we can see those same sections are displayed in this drop-down, so you can switch between them here. Now, the one exception to this is the interface script. If we click on that, you don't see the different sections here, but they are there. If we go to the larger view, we can see them here. So I'm just switching between these scripts by clicking these little buttons here. Now, we're not going to get into any detailed scripting today, but the reason I'm showing you these different sections is just so you can understand the structure of a HISE script. And although we're seeing them as different sections here in the HISE interface, if we go back to the scripts, in my repo, let's open this one for example, we'll see that all those different sections that we saw are actually all contained in a single script file. So let's have a look. So here we go. So this is all one file, but we can see we have the onNoteOn, onNoteOff, onController, onTimer, and onControl. So every section is contained in the same file. So all HISE is doing here is splitting it up for our convenience so we can focus on a single section. Now, what this means is that we can't just copy and paste a file into here because the separate sections won't be split up. So let me show you that. We'll go back to that. This is an AHDSR controller I've got here. So we'll click raw to just open up the raw text. I'm going to press Ctrl A and Ctrl C to copy it all. And then back in HISE, if I was just to paste this in now into onInit, let's say, it's going to dump onControl, onTimer, onController, onNoteOff, and onNoteOn. They've all been dumped into onInit. So now if I go to onNoteOn, there's actually nothing in there because we just dumped it all straight into here. So that's not how you do it. So I'm going to clear this out. Just press Ctrl A and press delete. So the proper way to do it, we're going to go back to Codeberg. I'm going to press Ctrl A again to select everything and Ctrl C to copy. So same as before. But this time in HISE, instead of pressing Ctrl V to paste it, I'm going to right click within the script editor. And I'm going to come down here and select Load Script from Clipboard. So we'll click that, click OK. And now, if we scroll down, we don't see those different sections here, but they have been added within the separate sections here. Now, there was no code in those sections, so we don't actually see anything here, but if there was, this is where they'd show up. So let's do another example. So let's go down to the note filter script here. Again, this one's public domain, and we'll go to the raw. We'll press Ctrl-A, Ctrl-C. So I'm just going to right click and select load script from clipboard. It asks me if I want to replace it. I'll click OK. So now I've loaded in the note filter script, and this one does have different sections. So if we go to on note on and on note off, we'll see code has been added into those sections there. So that's how you paste a script into HISE. Now, if you wanted to copy an entire script to share it, you can right click and select Save Script to Clipboard. And if I open up a text editor, and I'll paste that script in, and you can see it's copied all of these different sections here. So we've got the on timer, on control, on controller, on note off, and on note on. So that's the correct way to load scripts into HISE from script files and how to copy them out if you want to share them with other people. Okay, now let's talk about snippets, because snippets are what you're going to find more commonly available on the HISE forum. And a snippet is basically a snapshot of a project, excluding any external files like samples or images. And it is presented as just a string of text, and you can copy that text and load it into HISE, and the snapshot will be restored. So let's delete this script for now, and I'm going to pull up the HISE forum. Now you're going to see HISE snippets popping up all over the forum, and we'll look at some specific examples in a minute. But if you just want to search for HISE snippets just to explore them, you can do this through the search at the top. So just type in the word HISE snippet, all in lowercase and within quotation marks, and hit enter. And if we scroll down, we're just looking for snippet strings. Here we go. So these are the things that start with HISE snippet. So you'll see these all over the forum. So they're very easy to spot. There's another one, there's another one. This is one as well. It's just slightly different format. So here's another one. So when you see these things starting with HISE snippet, it's going to be some sort of snippet. Now I don't know what this one is, but I'm just going to select it. I'm going to select copy. I'm going to go into HISE, and then to load a snippet, you go to File and select Import HISE Snippet, or you can use the shortcut key. In my case, it's Ctrl-Shift-B. On a Mac, it's probably Command-Shift-B. So I'll click OK. Now in this case, it says it doesn't contain a valid snippet, so that probably just means it's a formatting issue with the forum, because this one is formatted a bit strangely. So I'm going to go with this one above instead, so I'll copy that one. And we'll do the same thing again. Click OK. And this time it's imported the HISE snippet, and you can see it's mentioning some errors here. What you will find is snippets created in older versions of HISE might trigger some errors because things change between different versions of HISE. This first thing though about loading embedded sample maps, that's not an error. That's fine. That's just because this is a snippet, so we don't have access to external files. But if you do get any errors, they're usually quite minor things. But we're not getting into coding today, so we'll ignore that for now. But I just want to show you that a snippet contains not just the script, which we can see here, and there's that error there, by the way. It also contains the modules, so you can see we've got two samplers loaded here in the module tree, and it contains the GUI, so we have GUI components. They're not loading at the moment because of the error, but usually they'd be visible on the interface. So snippets are used to share information and demonstrate issues rather than being a good way to share functionality. And that's because it is a whole project. So you're not just sharing one little bit like you could do if you were sharing just a little bit of code. You are sharing the entire project, and it does replace the current project that was loaded. But it is very useful for sharing concepts and ideas on the forum, and if you're trying to explain a problem you're having, you can share a snippet so somebody else can try out your project and experience it in the way that you are and see if they run into the same error, and if they do, perhaps they can offer a solution. So next I'm going to show you the snippet browser, and this is full of example snippets, many of them contributed by the HISE community, and I'm going to show you how you can use that and how you can import the snippets into your HISE project. We're going to go to Help, and we're going to select Browse Example Snippets. So this opens a second instance of HISE. It's open on my other monitor here. So this looks like the regular HISE, but over at the left here, we have this thing called the Snippet Browser. Now, the first time you run this, you have to download the snippets from the snippet server, And when you want to update to get the latest snippets, you also need to know how to download them. So the download interface actually might show here the first time you open the snippet browser, but if it doesn't, you click on the cog icon up here. And then this is the download interface. So you can put in your forum username if you have one. You can choose where you want the snippets to be downloaded. And then I just make sure both these checkboxes are enabled and click the download button. Okay, now that's done, we can have a look at a few of the snippets. And again, we might run into the same issues that there are errors, even though these are sort of official snippets. If they're made with an older version of HISE and they haven't been updated, there's a chance they might not work as expected. So let's try this one, range slider panel. So I'm just going to double click it and it loads in. And it's not working as I would expect, but let's see. Oh yeah, it is working, it's just graphically a bit boring. Let's have a look, what else do we have here? Oh, we can filter, by the way, through these things at the top, so I'm going to filter by UI. So a button pack, let's have a look at the button pack example. So there we go. Now, because this is a separate instance of HISE, it is possible if you want to copy certain elements from the snippet and bring them into your project. And you can also load in snippets that you find on the forum as well. So let me bring across a forum page here. So here's the snippet that I posted. So I'm just going to click this button here to copy it. And if we go back to the snippet browser, I'm going to go to File and Import HISE Snippet. So with this snippet, what happens is when you click the button, it changes this panel. In fact, it's actually showing different panels each time. So if we look at the interface designer, pull this across. So we can see there are several panels, and clicking the button just hides 3 of the panels and shows 1 of them, and it does it in order. So this is a separate instance of HISE, the snippet browser. Depending on what operating system you're on, you might already be able to load up multiple instances of HISE together, so I can do that. So if I wanted to, I can pull up a second instance of HISE, or a third instance if I want. But I think on macOS and possibly on Windows, you can only actually have 1 instance of HISE open at a time. So the snippet browser becomes critical if you want to have 2 instances open so that you can copy and paste between them. So this is the original instance of HISE I had opened when I opened the snippet browser. And you can see it says this instance is currently suspended, click to activate it. So I can click that and I'm back to where I was with that snippet that didn't work. So I'm going to use this as my sort of base project. So I'll just click New there. And then I'm going to show you how we can bring in elements from the snippet browser. So if I wanted to include this panel switching stuff in my main project, but let's say I just wanted to have panels 1 and 2, then I would have to recreate this GUI in my main project because I can't just import the snippet across because that would replace everything I had already. So we'd have to recreate the UI, so I'd add a button. And let's just give ourselves some more room here. There we go. So I'd add a button, and I think there were 2 panels I said, so we'll have 2 panels. And I'll just give this some colors so we can see it. Okay, and then I'm going to add a second panel. I'll give this one a different color. Okay, so I'm just going with 2 panels here. Now let's go back to the snippet. So we can see they're named panel 1 and panel 2, and the button is called button 1. So let's make sure I've got that the same as well. Button 1, panel 2. So you've got to make sure everything matches, so the names match. You don't have to worry about the position so much, at least not in this case, but the button names and the number of controls need to match or need to be adjusted for what you want. So in this case, I only want 2 panels. Let's just check the button properties. So we can see that is momentary is enabled. So that's this property here, is momentary. So I want to make sure I enable that on my button as well. So we'll come down here. So a momentary button just means when you click it and release the mouse, it goes off. If it's not momentary, then clicking it will turn it on, and clicking it again will turn it off. So we want it to be momentary so that it's turned off once you release the mouse. Okay, so we've built up the UI. It matches what we have in the snippet. And now I want to import the code that makes it work. So let's just do that. So I've got the script open here, and this is going to be the interface script. So we're in the interface script, and I'm going to go back to the snippet. So if you're just wanting to copy the entire snippet and make it match exactly, then you don't have to worry too much about what's going on in the script. You can just copy and paste it and hope for the best. Fix any errors as they come up, or if you struggle to fix the errors, you can ask the person who posted the snippet if they can help you. In this case, though, I think, well, let's just see what happens. I'm going to copy it and paste it across. Now, I am only copying the stuff that's in init because I don't think there is anything in the other ones. Yeah, there's nothing in there. But also, I don't want to replace the entire script of my project. So I'm not going to use that technique we saw earlier for save script to clipboard and load script from clipboard, because that would replace the entire script in my project. I don't want to do that. I just want this bit of code for this bit of functionality from this snippet. So I've copied it across and I'm going to paste it into init. So that's very important that you do go through, when you're doing this, you have to go through the snippet and make sure there's nothing in any of the other sections that you need to copy it across. You have to do it all manually to make sure you're getting just the code you need and you're not wiping out your original project's code. Okay, so I'm just going to hit compile and see if this works. Okay, we've got an error. Right, so this is a common thing you're going to find when you're taking a snippet, but you want to modify it a bit to fit your project, because it's unlikely that you're going to want exactly what the original author of the script had, because they were making something for their project, and you're wanting something for your project. The good thing, though, is it's usually small tweaks you want, because you're using the snippet as a starting point, as a base to build from. So usually all you're wanting to do is make tiny little adjustments here and there, and you don't really need to know a lot about coding to work out what's going on. So first of all, the error messages. Don't be afraid of error messages. If you see bright red text down here, that's actually a good thing because it's going to give you useful information. So what we see here is it says component with name panel 3 wasn't found. And that's correct because we don't have a third panel. But what that tells us is the script is expecting there to be a third panel and possibly more. So we can figure that out from here actually, because we can see where the error is showing up because it's highlighted it in red. So we've got an error there. And we can see this, we've got some numbers here, 1 and 5. So that kind of gives us a hint. And we've got the mathematical symbol there for less than, so less than 5. So basically what this bit of code is doing is it's counting from 1 to 4. And in the original snippet that makes sense because there are 4 panels, right? Numbered 1, 2, 3 and 4. So it doesn't take a massive leap of understanding to go, right, okay, this number here is the upper limit for the number of panels we've got. We want that to be 3 because we need to be 1 more than the actual number of panels we have. So let's hit F5. And now it's going to work, I hope. There we go. So that's how you copy bits from a snippet. Just remember that you're not replacing your whole project with what's in the snippet. You just want to take the little bits and pieces here and there that you need to add that extra functionality to your project. And because you are doing this sort of cherry picking process, it can be complicated. You do have to go through each of the callback sections and make sure you're taking just the right bits of code that you need. But a thing that makes it easier is finding snippets that kind of encapsulate just the one thing, because some snippets will have loads of extra stuff in them. And on the HISE forum, what you'll tend to find is the snippets are pretty compact. They tend to focus on just one thing, and that's really good. Those are the sort of snippets you want. You don't want the snippet that contains an entire project with loads of detail and lots of modules and things like that. You want to look for snippets that are very specific and focused. I'm going to show you another snippet now that I think is an interesting one, and this was posted just the other day. In fact, I think it was posted today. Yeah, so 5 hours ago. And this is a really nice one. So forum member Dan, he's created this pitch wheel and modulation wheel snippet. So it's a GUI type snippet. Now this is a more complicated snippet. I'm not going to show you how to integrate it into your project, but I just want to show you the kind of thing that's possible. So I'm going to press Ctrl-Shift-V to load the snippet, and it's going to replace what I've got here. Okay, so do be careful when you're importing snippets, because it will replace what you've already got. But you get a little warning to tell you about it, so just be careful there. Okay, so here's Dan's snippet. As you can see, there's nothing in the module tree. That's good. That means it's a focused snippet. It doesn't contain extraneous stuff that we don't need to be concerned with. It just focuses on what its purpose is, which is to demonstrate this pitch wheel and mod wheel GUI. So let's just zoom in here. So you can see he's made that work, and when you release the mouse, it springs back. So that's nice. And then we've got the mod wheel here as well. And we can see he's using a couple of labels there. And the mod wheel and pitch wheel are just regular sliders. So we have access to all the usual properties. There's also a bunch of scripting in here, which is mostly just what we call look and feel or paint routines, and that just controls the appearance of these sliders. So there are no image files here, it's all done with vectors, so it should scale nicely to different size screens as well. So there are many advantages to using pre-written scripts or bits of snippets in your own projects. They instantly expand the functionality of your projects without you having to do a ton of work or without you having to write your own scripts. They're generally free of charge because you're just going to find them floating around on the forum. I guess if you needed to get somebody to customize it, you might have to pay for that, but that would be a low cost compared to getting someone to develop a script from scratch. And as we've seen, they're relatively easy to implement. If you're bringing in an external script, then that's just a case of copy and pasting, so that's really simple. If it's a snippet, it can be a bit more complicated because you do have to make sure you're getting just the bits of code you need and you're tweaking them to match your setup, and you have to set up the components on the UI and the module tree and all that stuff. So snippets are a little more complicated to bring into your own projects than just pure scripts are. Some of the downsides of working with third-party scripts and snippets are they don't always come with instructions on how to use them. So if you don't know the sort of intention behind them, and especially with more complicated scripts, it can be difficult to know how you're meant to integrate it, what the different controls are meant to do and that kind of thing. The usual way to figure that out is to go through and read the code, but if you're using the script because you don't know how to code, then that doesn't really help you very much. Sometimes there are helpful comments within the script, so those are the bits of text that are in green, and they'll give you little bits of information about what you can customize, what you can change, and they can get you a long way towards tweaking the script so it does what you need it to do. Another issue is trying to combine multiple external scripts into one script, or bits of many snippets into one project. And this can lead to conflicts, or what I call frankencode, where you just have all these different bits and pieces that were never intended to work together, and somehow you've got to mash them all together and get them to behave. And it just ends up with a mess and can end up being a lot of work. So just be wary of that when you're working on your projects. Try and keep things separated if you can. So you don't need to be an expert in scripting to be able to make the most of these external scripts. If you want to tweak them and adjust them to do what you need, if you just have a little bit of scripting knowledge, that will go a really long way. So a basic understanding of scripting, that's going to give you a massive amount of flexibility and control when working with third-party scripts. And the good thing is it doesn't take long to get a good foundation in scripting. You don't need to master it all, and a short time investment can save you a lot of time in the future. So it's definitely worth taking the time to learn the basics of scripting, even if you don't think you want to get more advanced and use it extensively in the future. It's going to help you a lot just when you're working with third-party scripts. And the only real alternative to this is to hire somebody else to do the scripting for you. And that's going to be expensive, and even after the script is written, you'll be in the same place as when you're using a third-party community script. If you want a change made, you've either got to do it yourself or, again, hire somebody to change it. And the issue with frankencode is going to come up again if you try and bring in additional features or functionality. So I'm going to leave a few links alongside this video that will help you get started with scripting. So there's a JavaScript tutorial. You don't want to go too deep into JavaScript because HISE script is a distinct language, but the basics are the same. So I'll leave a link to that and a link to some of my beginner tutorial videos that you might find helpful. So thank you very much for joining me. I hope you found this video helpful. Please leave a comment below and let me know where you're at on your HISE scripting journey. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.